In 1994, brew pubs were still a novelty. In the state of Missouri, I think we were the third or fourth one to start. It was difficult at first because, you had to train people to drink craft beers. A big thing was always been for us is education. Get people to drink craft beers and different tastes, they'll start to learn. Certainly, I think, if anything, it's been an education process here in Columbia, and that's one of the reasons why we have, so many breweries now. As we've started to kind of get people to learn how to drink good beer, they've all started to drink craft and learn to appreciate it.
Essentially what we do here is make yeast food. We really don't make beer. The yeast makes the beer for us.
Brewers are glorified janitors. We're really just scrubbing down all the tanks and creating a nice, tidy home for yeast to do what it wants to do, which is replicate itself.
And make that awesome byproduct of CO2 and most importantly, alcohol.
In brewing, there's equal parts science and art.
Science is absolutely integral in the process, but there is that artistic side that needs to come out. That's what differentiates brewery to brewery and brewer to brewer, is that artistic side. There is certain excitement in creating the same beer over and over again because you're hitting your marks and you're creating consistent products. But the stuff that really excites me is coming up with something new. I mean, starting out with truly a blank slate and saying, okay, what do I want to make? What kind of flavor profile do I want from this? And then kind of working up from there. And it's like a slow progression into building a recipe and ultimately building a beer that people will drink and hopefully enjoy.
My wife and I, when we travel and we eat out at a restaurant, part of the joy in our traveling and vacations is trying cuisine in different parts of where we go. And those new flavors that we could experience leads to inspiration for beer.
It's hard to shut it off, even just sometimes drinking a beer to enjoy it and not like sitting there and smelling it and tasting it critically. Sometimes that can even be hard, which can be frustrating, where it's like, I just want to enjoy this beer, but I catch myself thinking about it.
2 years ago, I was going to make a Belgian Gold, and it's something we've done in the past, but I decided to try out a new yeast. The yeast company even says in their descriptor for it that it does sometimes stall out at a higher terminal gravity, so it doesn't actually reach the gravity you want, and it ended up happening with that. The beer was super sweet, just overly malty, super unbalanced. Just to me wasn't what I really wanted, and I was really not happy with it. We do a lot of fruit beers here throughout the year, so I was just kind of checking to see what fruit was available, and I came across blood orange. I just take some growlers and I dump some beer in it and dump some juice in it, and keep track of what I'm doing so I've got my measurements down and have my ratios right. But I added that blood orange to it, and it actually turned out great. That sweet base was balanced out by that very tart, acidic orange puree/juice. And now it's actually one of the fruit beers the pub actually really looks forward to.
We started back in 2014. Home brewer for a long time, about 14 years. Mechanical engineer by training, and I've always worked in manufacturing. So Brewing is my first business. But I also know that I didn't know enough. And so I hired a head brewer from California, Craig Bridgeford, and he's our head brewer and makes some pretty fine ales. The beer is phenomenal that craft breweries across the country are making, but it's the people that really make it special, the culture. And that's what I fell in love with, is just everybody being so open to share their information and wanting to see the next craft brewery that came along succeed. And that is unusual in many industries. You don't see that in the car industry, you don't see that in the macro beer industry, but you do see that in craft brewing. And I think that's what the big boys will just never understand.
It's not uncommon for us to help each other out and loan out ingredients, whether it be malt, hops. And so that's really neat too, is that, there's that camaraderie, even though it is still a business. For me personally, I love what I do, and it's great to see other people love what they do as well, as far as the same passion and interest and, just trying to come up with new creative things.
We're all fighting for clientele and fighting for people to drink our beer and to be seen, but it doesn't stop us from helping anyone else out. Down here we produce the beer in the back in the small brewery, and it's a very manual process, and it's made by hand, and then it's put on tap. The tanks are 20 feet from the tap, and it's running directly off some of those tanks. About as close to the source as you can get it.
We are a true brew pub because what we make, we serve here. We don't wholesale out. We do a few kegs for just people, but we don't sell anything for other restaurants. Our beer travels 20 feet in its lifetime. Brewed upstairs, it goes downstairs to the cellar, and then it comes back up through the bar. It's constant temperature all the time. It's not being jostled around in the back of a truck or shifted to different temperatures. It's truly just taking care of its whole life until it's put in a glass and served to a guest.
There's a uniqueness about that beer only being available in that town, and it creates something special for that community at hand. And it's part of the overall experience of traveling somewhere and experiencing, the place the new place that you're at.
When we built a craft brewery and we started getting a customer base, we thought, why not throw a party? The idea behind Brewery Night Live is to celebrate not only live music and fresh craft beer. We try to do a unique beer release for our Brewery Night Live events, but we celebrate other guest breweries, maybe those that aren't typically distributed here in the Columbia area. So it's an opportunity not only to try their beers, but by design, we have the owners or brewers there. For them to participate in Brewery Night Live, we have to get somebody that is to the heart of that business so that people can ask them questions, have conversations about craft beer and all of that, but yet all the time being able to celebrate and have a good time.
The key philosophy of Logboat is, making a beer to share with the community, providing a space for people in the community to come hang out and have conversations and get to know each other and socialize, and do that over a pint of beer is pretty fun stuff.
You make memories and you have experiences with people ultimately. Beer is certainly a part of that.
Small craft breweries in every community that I think really have that fabric that brings people together, and people want to celebrate and support that.
No matter where you go here in town, you're going to find variety. You can come here and get a fruit beer that's maybe a little bit sweeter and a little bit more flavorful, or if you go to Logboat, you're gonna find something that's maybe a little more subtler, but still done really well. But everybody does their own thing, their own way, and I think it's neat to be able to be in a community that's this size with this many breweries, within a certain area of each other, to be able to go to each brewery and find something that is their own niche.
The beer is one of our products, it's something to be enjoyed, but it's not about the beer. It's about the relationships that are formed, the conversations that happen over a beer. The experience of just hanging out with your friends or family, I think, are really what we're trying to get down to. And I think that's what most of the tap rooms, whether you're in the yard with Logboat, enjoying kicking around a ball or hanging out with the kids, or coming out to Burr Oak and playing big billiards. I think those types of experiences are what people come to breweries for. Of course, they want to try the beer. They want to try new flavors. They want to expand their palate. They want to learn more about craft beer. That opportunity to learn more, I think, is what gets people here. But what keeps people is just that sense of fun, sense of adventure, and doing something a little different than maybe what they did last weekend. So come to Columbia and check it out.